mess that up. You're not going to get that in the minutes, Don, on the recording. So. All in favor of approving the agenda as published, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. So comments from the public. We've been doing this for quite a while now, and everybody that will have an opportunity to speak on anything not on the agenda. If anybody has anything else they'd like to bring up, now's the time. And yes.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not. I'm Jolie with New Perspectives in
Okay.
Sioux City. And Dawn had sent out an email a week or two ago regarding the community employment placement incentive and the fact that you all are thinking about getting rid of that. And I was just wondering if there would be a time or place that us providers could meet with a few of the board members and Dawn to discuss how imperative that incentive is, and if we could streamline it even to have for the amount to be less and maybe stricter guidelines for what actually would qualify as the placement, but to just completely get rid of that incentive, I think would be very detrimental to the employment first that the federal government had put down, because MCOs, the state employment has not received any kind of increase since the tiers began 2.5 years ago or more. And it's very difficult to provide those services the way the MCOs are funding it now. I just would like to bring that forward for thought discussion at some time. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can actually, I guess we'll be discussing the budget, or I don't know that we'll be finalizing that today. I don't know that, but we can sure have more conversation when we get to that, if that's okay. Unless, is that all right with everybody? Okay. Very good. Thank you. Anybody else want to hear the public or comments from the public? Okay. If not, we'll move on. Number 8, unfinished business. None. So that brings us right up to what we're going to be spending most of our time today on, is discussion of the fiscal year 2021, 20 and 21 budget. Dawn, you want to lead us off, or is there some?
Sure. Start off. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, just for everyone that is in the room, so you can understand the process that we went through to get to the discussion of a formal budget process in the board meeting today. We really needed to have a budget work session in advance of that, so that we could look at all options. The region has a lot of things coming forward in terms of funding children's behavioral health in some capacity, and as well as the core services for adults. We are still lacking in meeting compliance for several of the core services on the crisis side of things. And so it was going to be a challenge for us to get this all done in one board meeting. So that's why we had a budget work session. And what I'm going to just review for the benefit of everybody in the room is a summary of what we talked about before we got into some financial projections. So the budget that we have put together is a total budget of $7,631,840 for next year. And that budget number is preliminary, because this budget that budget figure did not take into account any increases that we may receive from providers on provider rate increases, perhaps. The only one that was calculated into that was a request from Shelter Hall for an increase for next year's budget, because they have been frozen for several years in their rates, and she is asking for a small increase next year, and the timing of the request just happened to come in at, I think you sent that back in August, Chris. So that one I I did receive some other budget requests while I was already looking on all of the budget numbers. So what I'm going to talk about in terms of this budget figure does not take into account any of the additional that I'm going to bring up to speed on now. Plains Area Mental Health Center is requesting a $30,000 increase to school-based services. I did talk with Kim about getting some kind of justification for that request before so that can be considered. Kim, if you want to just touch briefly on that you guys are expanding, you had mentioned several schools that you're going to be looking at providing some services in.
Right, so originally we were in just the Denison School in Crawford County. Now we're in all schools in Crawford County. We will start February 15th with MNCRU, which is part of Cherokee County. We can only give them 1 day a week. They want 3. We're just getting requests all over the place from a lot of different schools. We just got another request from Glidden School to provide school-based services 1 day a week in their school. We're putting a hold on that until we figure out, financially if we can do that and capacity. We are looking at hiring. We're in the process of hiring additional therapists, which would then feed into some of the school-based services. But we can bill for services, but for school-based, we also have got to have that intervention, a crisis intervention, a consultation piece to it, which is not billed. So that's where I'm coming from with an additional $40,000 for the school-based. The remainder of our ask is the same as last year.
Thank you. Secondly, we are jointly funding the Crisis Stabilization and Assessment Center in Sioux City and Sioux Rivers. We had agreed at last year's budget time for this fiscal year to do a 75% Rolling Hills funding and 25% Sioux Rivers so that both regions could access the assessment center. They are looking at a disproportionate amount of people being served by their counties, and now they're actually taking on Dickinson, Osceola, possibly Kasuth, some other counties may be joining them. So some of those counties are going to be out of the range to be able to get the access to Sioux City. So they're requesting that we pick up a higher amount of that. They want to go to us funding 85%. We have not made a decision on that, but it would result in an increase to our region of $78,000 if that is agreed upon by the board.
Dawn, on that, you say if they bring in those other counties, they were looking at expanding their region. This service also has to be within so many miles or hours, or is that just
120, correct.
Okay.
As far as other increases for providers, I think for the most part, they should be all covered because we pretty much with our vocational providers gone to the tier rates, and that's the language is in the contract, so I don't foresee any problems or changes there. So as far as I'm aware, the biggest question I had was Susan Olive and Sheila Martin was here for the session and confirmed that their status quo for next year. So Jolie, to address your question about the supported employment incentives, and I know that you and I were emailing back and forth in that question, and I know that you understood where I was coming from. This whole budget process for our region is going to be a huge challenge this year because we have so many things that, like I mentioned earlier, that are coming at us and that we have to meet. So I'm trying to look at all ways to create efficiencies for the dollars that we have available under capped budget to be able to do that. But I can respect and appreciate what you're saying, that maybe that we all sit down together, the providers and the region staff, and look at some kind of stricter criteria or decrease payments. I think that the region has been very generous, I will say, in terms of the supported employment amounts that we have paid out, specifically in our 7 counties prior to Woodbury County joining us. It's a lot of money, I can tell you that. It was one thing we did to move people out in the community, and then subsequently our work centers have closed within, our counties as well. So I think that could, I would be willing to sit down with all of you guys and talk this through further and come up with maybe some other way of doing it completely step down the road. We're not going to be able to put it to the level that we are now. There's just no way.
Well, we as in NPI, I can't speak for anyone else, I was hoping there would be more providers here. We understand that, and we understand the situation that the state has put all the
Yes.
regions in.
We're definitely not doing it arbitrarily to just kind of pull the rug out from underneath providers. So it's just looking at all the ways we can be efficient, and that is one way.
And I think, we think that there's a way that there can be some kind of incentive, subsidy, whatever, for initial placements.
And maybe it doesn't, it would, okay, and this is, I don't want to belabor it, but maybe if we have a meeting and discuss that, I want to get away from the incentive language altogether. I would want to look at it as, I know that we don't want to subsidize Medicaid. The region doesn't want to do that, but we are. In effect, we do it with our mental health centers, and maybe it's something that if you as providers can show us what it takes to the cost is to provide that service and what your reimbursement rates are from Medicaid, I think that would be, I would be more comfortable with a smaller amount and not calling it an incentive. But, and I did keep some funds in the budget for supported employment, so I didn't just take the whole amount and zero it out. So
I just think as long as we can come to the table and have a discussion.
absolutely.
This happened very quickly, and honestly, from my perspective from Woodbury County, I do not know any of the other community employment providers, so I did not feel comfortable in emailing them and saying, hey,
Nope.
how is this going to affect you? And so I think
Yeah.
inviting people to the table, and then if they come, great.
Sure,
If they don't,
absolutely. And
As
so
far
what
as-
really kind of started this is that you all know Genesis Development terminated services and Imagine Possibilities took over. So we found out that we had no other option but to piggyback onto the contracts that Imagine had. They do not have incentives in their contract, and their region is in no financial position to pay incentives. So we had to follow the host region's contract. So Genesis Development was the first to kind of trigger this whole action. So yeah, I definitely would be willing to sit down with you all
Thank you.
and have a conversation, and I would be willing to set it up. Cindy, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, and I'm from Goodwill stance, we would appreciate that we could at least sit down and discuss it. too,
Absolutely.
And everything, and I think most of us are aware that there's no way you can fund the whole entire thing, but at least a conversation and discussion.
Absolutely. Yep. I'll be in touch with you all. Get through some of this, and a couple of weeks maybe down the road, I'll send something out to you guys. I'll look at that. Okay. Shifting gears into revenue. One of the things that we talked about is that we had some unanticipated revenue. So our ending balance as of fiscal year 2019 came out about $500,000 higher than we had anticipated. It's a problem to have. So we actually, even in this fiscal year, I'm estimating additional revenues because Turning Point in the Plains area, our crisis center in Sac City, is getting some really good reimbursements coming in from the MCOs. And so the way our contract reads is that those reimbursements go directly to the region. And in total, we've also contracted with ITP, we already have contracted with ITP, but we've contracted with our hospitals who receive that service, and they are now reimbursing us at 50%. So I'm anticipating $300,000 in miscellaneous revenues. So that kind of threw off where I was looking at ending the fiscal year this year, so we're going to come out a little bit higher. So good problem to have because it allows us to, whatever dollars we have available, we have to divert it to children's and poor. So we have a lot of services. Out of the 8 core services that the regions all have to be compliant with, according to by July 1st of 2021, we have 3 of the 8. And we have had a lot of task force meetings over the last year to develop mobile crisis. Yay, we got that up and running. Nikki and Melissa have done a great job on that. So we've got mobile crisis available across the region. Community stabilization residential, we've been doing that for a couple of years now. And we also have 23-hour observation because of our contract with the Siouxland Mental Health Assessment Center. And then the others that we don't have, and I mentioned this previously to the board, we've got Town Access Center available in our region, which estimate, I'm thinking Access Center estimate would be around $3.2 million based on others that have come up across the state. There's only a few that I'm aware of. Kim?
I just got Christine's information,
Okay.
so they're at about a little over $1 million.
That's for operation.
Yes.
Does that include ACT, subacute?
It includes subacute, and crisis stabilization, and a mobile crisis.
Is it a building?
Pardon me?
Is it a building?
Yes.
I'm surprised they can do it for $1 million.
That's, I just, am looking at the figures, so.
Was that an existing building already, Kim? or-
Yeah.
So maybe earlier we were talking new construction and other costs too, with that 3.2,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So maybe
Does that
that's-
include 23-hour hours?
I think it does, yeah.
That's interesting because the cross regions was 3.2 million. So,
That's what I just got, so.
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Seems low to me too.
It does seem very low. Assertive community treatment is another, and we estimated that at about $700,000 annually to provide that service. Gee, you may not know this, or if you do, you may not want to share this, but I was going to reach out to Christina and find out what your operational costs are for ACT. Do you have a ballpark?
I don't have that. I can have Christina get back to you though.
I didn't get a chance to send her an email. I'll shoot her one later, but just based on what the CEOs have been talking about, the service at our state level, and then the low reimbursements from the MCOs for ACT, they're talking $500,000 to $700,000 to provide community treatment. Community-based crisis stabilization we do not have, and I estimated that at $150,000. The IRS proposal that our region received from Wesco was $275,000, and I think that's on the low end probably. And then subacute. Subacute is a requirement of an access center, and I'm guessing $2 million to provide subacute. In total, we would need an additional $6,325,000 just to meet the core requirements of July of next year. So therein lies my dilemma. So, and we don't even have the levy capacity to generate that amount of income to be able to fund these services. And that's looking at sustainable without the MCOs, because we are making service investments. Now, whatever we invest in, we got to be able to sustain, because the MCOs have just been really slow to launch in terms of reimbursing providers for crisis services. So that's one of the problems.
Don? This is a greenhorn about mental health and all of these services that you're just speaking of. And I get that the state is mandating all this without the funding. So my question is there an organization of regionals, people that can go to the state? I know you're gonna laugh me off
No,
the
you're fine.
floor, but go to the state and say, everybody get together and say, this is not working.
Yeah, our
And-
CEO Collaborative has been working on that for quite a few years, and ISAC, they're pushing that as one of their
Okay.
priorities every year. Some of the problem is that regions have balances, and we're not at the max yet. So I think until we get to that per capita max and we've spent our balances now, they're not going to probably kick in.
Thank you.
That's my personal feeling. So we're trying to do it with the limited resources and our cap. I mean, right now, we're at 3075 for the 7 counties, and then Woodbury is at 3363 per capita. We can only go up to 4279. The budget target that I proposed to the board at $7,631,840 is a 3868 per capita, which is a huge jump for all the counties. So we went through, you all have copies of the budget projection. budget target of $7,444,836 to end with a fund balance of $2,548,643. And to some of you, that may seem like a lot of money. It's not. When you've got quarterly payments that are going out to some of our providers through our block grants, we have to have that 25% of operations sitting within our budget so that we can pay our providers come July. So it seems like, why would you have that sitting there not investing it? Well, we have to have that money for that reason. With that fund balance and the revenue coming into the region next year through the per capita, which I proposed at the expenditure level, we would end next year with a fund balance of $3,018,955. And that would put us, again, at about 40% of our budget. I think at this point, I did provide a budget summary for everybody to view, and it's really just a reiteration of what I just said. I would like the board to, engage in discussion, questions. I think this is the time for me to turn it over to you for any further questions or you want to ask now or not addressed earlier in our work session.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at these things you sent out a week or two ago, Dawn. And I'll go back to Jolie, back to you on this. So am I looking at the right line item there that so far we spent about $23,000 in incentives? Am I on the right line?
Yes.
The chart, the
That's
account
for
code?
the population, and I did include a $40,000 budget for support employment, and then under the ID population, I had $40,000 as well, so $80,000 total.
Okay.
And that's on the top of your third page.
Are those for services for people that do not have Medicaid?
A few.
Okay.
Yeah, you got a few that we are coming some support. It's not a huge amount, I would say that. Yeah, under 10.
So that's the line item where the incentive money would go
Right,
to?
we're paying it out there as well, yep.
So I guess there my question is, we've already spent $23,000, we're halfway through the fiscal year. We're looking at 46. I mean,
But we have
and you still got, but am I missing a line item you
your
said
budget
there?
line. You might be looking at
I'm looking at
the budget
the,
request for next year.
no, yeah, what I'm looking at is here.
Right.
So if
You're
we're,
right.
I'm just saying 46, and we budget, we're still, if we lower those incentives,
But if we
we,
were to lower those incentives, we would not spend $46,000.
right, that's what I'm saying, we'd stay within our,
Correct.
the 40,000.
And there comes a point where, especially with smaller counties, where you don't have as many people being placed because the people that can be placed.
Or are
So
already.
the numbers, I would assume, over the next year or two will start.
But I think that was our goal. I think a lot of our goals have been, throughout the whole 8 counties, have been met placing those folks.
Yep.
So that number should keep.
Correct.
And I guess my thought is that the trend we're going to keep seeing with, I guess, is Woodbury coming on, and I'm assuming you're in Woodbury
Yes.
County. So are those trends going to continue, that you'll be placing more people and not need that much incentive? I mean, is that, what's your crystal ball tell us?
We have placed all of our, we closed our workshop two years ago.
Okay,
So we have placed all, but we are getting new people in that want employment. And it just depends on the amount of referrals that we get.
okay.
You know, we don't have any control of that. Sometimes, we're getting 2 or 3 a month, and then we can go 3 months and not get a referral. So it just depends on how people come into the system and where they choose to receive services from. Because there's multiple places in Woodbury County that receive community employment services.
But these numbers you gave us has the 40 in there, the 40,000 in that. Well, okay. You said there was another line that had another
Yeah.
40, which
Under,
one?
it's
Supported community living?
Yeah, there's two. So if there's a 42 diagnosis code and a 40. So if you're looking at the 40, 4050?
Oh, 4250?
Yes.
Okay, there it
So it's in
is.
both places.
Okay, yeah, so you've already spent 25, between 24 and 25 out of that line. Okay.
Well, I think one of the questions is if you're talking about these other counties, there's a lot less people involved, but there may be a higher cost because less people serve, but you still need an administrator, not program in those counties and those kinds of things. But just to say, Jolie, if you aren't prepared to serve all the other counties under that same organization, probably per individual cost would be a good number to use to extrapolate out into your other counties, because it would probably be higher per individual based on the needs for support and stuff.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, does anybody else have any questions on any of these that were provided to us, or? Any of you have any?
I just asked Don, these numbers are, we don't know what contracts they refer to. Like these ones you were just talking about here, it's part of a total. Do you have it broken down to where it goes to, what organizations and those kinds of things, so that
Well, if we approve Clean Area's request and if we decide to increase the amount of building assessment center or take that burden off the sewers, then and then some other outlying requests, I would factor in about $200,000 on top of the $7,600 budget. And so you would be at a, I think it's a 3969 per capita versus 3868. So,
Is the crisis center able to build LCOs for IHH monies and GAP monies?
Yeah, we can bill for Medicaid services, and we just started trying some privatized insurance billing just to see if we're going through. We haven't got reimbursed for those yet. So, but we're not getting fully reimbursed for our NCO either, so. We should take into that as well.
Yeah.
There's not much that we have, so.
So does the crisis center then reimburse the region
Right.
for the monies that they receive?
Anything, yeah, they are, anything that they get to retain 150,000 of their reimbursements because to be fully funded. Because we don't fund the 80 of registered costs, right, 900,000 to operate. So anything above that goes to the region to reimburse us.
ID organizations help I have been looking to. Just saying.
Yeah, we would be broke pretty fast. Quicker than what I'm projecting.
Gene, I just have a question for you. Season Center, do they have a, I'm assuming you're with, is that Northwest Iowa Care Connection? Where does Season Center have a crisis stabilization center that they operate, or those are ones that are contracted with us through?
Northwest Iowa Care Connections contracts with both Sioux Rivers and our region for the service.
Oh, okay, so they can go to Sioux City or Sac City. Okay, thank you. And that's what, so if they pay over, just say, the way we have that set up now, if they pay over 115,000, anything over and above that comes back to our region on a 75-25.
And then for Turning Point, their contract is that the Northwest Iowa Care Connections reimburses us directly for anybody who's provided services at Turning Point.
And that's not based on a,
$400 a day rate.
you know, well, we have a few things there we need to address. I guess, the members we have here, again, as Don said, comes about 200,000 over what's been presented to us. If we don't, that's the 30,000 from school-based services and 78,000 from, or changing that formulation with Sioux Rivers and, then the incentive piece as well. So is that right, Don? Did you have that? Or is that going to add a little more than the 200,000? The incentive piece, if we didn't?
The incentive, we've got $80,000 budgeted next year for supporter employment.
Okay.
And then,
But if we're looking at 40 and 40, or 23 and 24 right now, that's going to be short. If that stays the same and if we're at halfway, that's not enough to cover at that point.
if we go to a lower amount, and then we've got Genesis, who's now imagine, who doesn't receive them anymore, and they were the biggest receiver.
So a lot of these numbers would are reflected in that as well,
Right.
too. Okay. Gotcha. Well, there's a few ifs and buts in here, fellas. I don't know what you want to. How you want to work it. You want to go backwards, start with our, discuss what we want to be at for are we ready to even have that conversation where we want to be for a per capita, or get into that piece of it?
Well, it looks to me like you almost have to determine that first, and especially if it's less than the 3884, I guess, whatever Don proposed. If it's less than that, then we know we're going to have to make.
But again, the 3868 doesn't have this 200,000 in it. We're up to 39.
3969.
39, what was that, Brett?
69.
3969. Yeah.
But that 78, I think you're putting that in there, and I guess I had the idea that we were
Well, that's what we're at. That's what we need to decide. Do we put it in or not? You want to play the game with them, or how do
Well,
we?
I think if you look at the contract, if it doesn't expire, a contract is a contract. I guess, and I've said this many times, over the years, everybody's come to this region thinking we were Santa Claus. And at some point, the fat guy's not coming down the chimney anymore. And I guess, I always look at this, if it was reversed, if we were wanting $78,000 more from somebody else, you think they'd just willingly hand it over? You know, I guess it's kind of, if it's good for this hand, it should be good for this hand. The purpose of a contract is to give you stability on what you pay.
And I think what you're saying too is maybe as long as we keep doing this, so what's the incentive for the folks that, the MCOs and the state or whoever to fulfill their obligation as long as we're doing this? I mean, I agree. I just want the conversations.
Sure, and you know, the other thing about bringing new people in, it looks to me like if they get from some of these other counties that are possibly joining, if their numbers increase, their 25 should maybe actually go up rather than go down. Instead of being 75-25, maybe it should be 60-40 if they get more of their people using it.
Well, and that's what I say, is that gonna, but if they don't, that's why I asked the question on the mileage, or if that's part of it, because if they bring somebody out of Dickinson County or whoever down, they're probably outside that, they're gonna have to come somewhere else, right? They're not gonna,
Well, I don't know how far 120 miles gets you from Sioux City.
yeah.
You know,
I'm just
certainly
saying.
at that point, it'll get you up to the border.
But you're right, they're adding more, they could be adding more counties, more people. Yeah, I agree, I don't, at this point, I'm not inclined to change that contract. But,
I think it would be the best to maybe map out with their additional counties, what's happening with them, to see how far they are with their counties that they're adding. Like O'Brien would easily fit into that, where we would be able to service their county already. But I think with the additional counties as well, it would be good to know. Because right now, we're serving a few of those counties already from Northwest Iowa connections.
so they are coming your way already.
Yeah. So
112 miles from Okoboji to Sioux City. And then the other option would be they contract with us
right,
and do what Northwest Iowa Care Connections.
right,
And that's what they're doing now.
right.
I mean, as far as, it wouldn't be a change for Dickinson or O'Brien counties, because that's how they're operating right
But once they're in Sioux Rivers would have to essentially contract with us on fee for
now.
service.
Right, but it'd just be a flip of a contract, a name.
So they could potentially be bringing more, with adding those, could be bringing more in anyway, right?
Right. and they-
So that 75-25, right, that's based off of a year ago and not where
Or
we're going
that
forward.
percentage changes and goes to turning point of billing calls in their contract.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think, what
Maybe you
you're
ought to
saying right
throw an
now.
offer back
So
64
that
and see,
percentage
oh, we're gonna do it this way.
would be from
See what they say.
the 75-25, if it went to 85-15, that extra 10% would probably flip to turning point by adding those counties and moving into that contract, as an option.
Yeah, because they wouldn't pay that incentive back to us at 85% of that over, they start, because then if they get over their 115,000 through Siouxland, we'd get a bigger portion of that back,
That's a good point, too.
you know, so. But would they have to meet that threshold first, and whether they meet that, I don't know. Have they met that threshold? 115,000?
I asked Joel Peterson for just an update on the status of the reimbursement, so 2-3 weeks back, and I haven't gotten time.
We're still sitting on Iowa Will here on everything. We haven't gotten anything back from them.
Okay.
But I can try to get you some more definitive numbers if Joel doesn't respond.
What's that?
I'll put a fire under Joel to try to get some info. He's usually pretty good at responding to
Yes.
it, so.
He's responsible.
Nikki, do you serve a lot of people in Plymouth and Siouxland right now?
Last month, we served 5 individuals and 1 individual from Northwest Iowa Connections. Over total. Which actually was pretty good. I mean, average probably 2 to 3 a month. I think though, quite honestly, we've seen an increase over the last year than what we were prior. And I think that's just more marketing and being out there and doing that.
Are you talking senators or air commissions?
For
The
the
increase that you said.
The increase would come through supervisors. Yeah, we're seeing
Okay.
a lot more of like Sioux Center,
Right.
Matt,
But you're not getting anybody from Northwest Iowa Care Commission.
not very often. We had one last month.
Okay.
So, I don't know how we, procedurally, how we go about that. Do we want to, I mean, I can see if we don't agree to change that funding formulation, we just send back a letter saying, well, our thought is, with your growing of your region, you might use more, and we'd like to continue this for at least another year before we revisit it. I mean, I don't know if that's
That would be my preference.
kind of the consensus. Do we need that in consensus, or that'll be something I guess part of the budget that frees up $78,000. In case, unless they do something totally.
In order to change it, I think we need a motion to change it.
Okay.
We have a contract with them now.
Okay.
I would just agree with you, Paul, that not change it, send them back the letter saying that we intend to honor the contract. We expect them to do likewise.
Okay. Well, let's try to get down to it then and talk about our per capita stuff. How do we want to, and again, this is we understand that where the providers are,
You
but,
want to do that motion now or later?
well, we're not changing it. So the only motion would be
Unless there's a motion to change it.
we wouldn't need a motion unless we're going to change it, so.
I'm fine with leaving it the way it is.
Okay. You guys all right? Consensus on that? Okay. So again, we look at this, we wear two different hats on this board, and we have to, we go back to our folks as well too. We understand we have to have the providers. We look at all the issues here that, how the state looks at us, or that point's been made today that as long as we're not fully at our cap and still have a fund balance, I think they look at us a little different than they would, that's probably, but again, that still goes back to our original mission, is that we're not going to start a service or provide a service if we can't maintain it. We know what some of these costs are going to be just to get them up and going, and we don't have that. We still can't make that in our budget if we're fully capped. So we're kind of walking a little line here, and that's where we need to figure out. I want direction from you folks where we need to go with this. What you want to, if you want to do that at this point. But I don't think we can keep kicking this can down the road either, because we have to do our budgets by the end of March. We did gain a couple weeks this year, but we have our first public hearings.
Well, we have to do it
For that.
earlier because of the change now with COVID.
That's what I mean. So we have to have two public hearings now, and the first one is my understanding. Am I right in that?
That's the way ours explained it to me.
So then we still have to do that earlier, so.
What is the first public hearing, like the date for that?
Well, you have to publish and have your hearing if you want to go up over a certain percent, and then you have to have your next hearing on the actual budget, and it has to be certified by the 15th of March. So, we have to have our first hearing toward the middle to the third week of February to meet the timeline. And we have to publish before then, so we really have to get our budget set somewhere before February 10th.
Does that public hearing have to be for here and our local board?
No.
Just on our local board.
So I really think we need to make our decision today so we can, the county boards can finish it, unless we're going to have a special meeting sometime again in January. Are you looking for a motion for a specific per capita?
Yes, if you think we're at that point.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Before we do that, did we decide on things that are mental health, requesting the 30,000? We let that go?
Well, that'd be an addition, so that's 30.
Right.
Of our 200,000 that we had in there, we're taking the 78 off the board.
It
So we
would
still have
just
the 30 in
further
there.
reduce the fund balance by that amount.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I
Sure.
ask a question before?
Feel free.
Thank you. So right now, the per capita target, just so I'm understanding, it's 3868 with an ending fund balance target of 40%. Is that,
But that doesn't have those included though.
Right, and I just did an estimate with $200,000 on top of the, out of the fund balance, it would be 35%. So if you don't change your budget target and keep it at 7.6, and you further take out the 200,000 out of your fund balance to account for it, you're gonna have a 35% fund balance to the 3868.
so I guess my only question is there any desire, I've sort of been, maybe, and I don't want to be presumptuous, but with some of Cecil's comments, maybe at a little bit of a lower, that question is going from, let's say a target of 30% ending fund balance, is there any desire to still be at the same budget target but use some fund balance in order to lower that levy a little bit or not? It's just a question for everybody.
I kind of thought that's how we arrived at the figure. If my motion fails, then somebody can make a different motion and see if they get support. So,
I'll ask a question maybe you asked earlier, Scott. So in the individual county, I mean, if we do this, say we just pick a number, say $38. That's what we settle on. Can the individual counties do, that's what they have to provide to the region per capita. So can the individual counties go to that max of 42 and hold that in there, or is that an accumulative of the region fund balance? You see what I'm saying? Our individual county balances
You can levy
aggregate.
whatever you want, yeah.
Okay. So we can hold that in aggregate.
Right.
But that's
Huh?
the whole idea.
You can't go above the cap.
The region having fund balances and not the counties having fund
Right.
balances. Because the region
Right.
can't use them, there's no way to give it, there'd be no way for you to give your money from the county to you until.
Well, I'm just saying if we went to, if BV County went to the cap this year,
Okay.
the full out 42.
Okay.
And then next year, the rest of it comes, we don't have to do the, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, is there an advantage to that? Not an advantage?
It's not 20B that we have to keep all the same.
No, levies can vary, because some
Levies
counties
vary.
had fund balance, some counties did not. So you utilize your fund balance to offset your levy, so we never had an equal levy. It was per capita had to be the same.
When you talk about the max levy, I've heard two terms of 4728 or 4279. Which actually is it?
Ours is 4279.
79. Well, where's this 4728?
That's the state one.
4728 was the original cap for the regions. And then once the levies were equalized a few years ago by region, we landed at 4279, but you could not go above the cap of 4728, which was the statewide max. And so there are only about 2 regions that are at that 4728. All the others are below.
So what happened is they basically took an average of our 6 or 7 counties when we did that in 2016. And we took the average of our 6 at that time. I don't know if Cherokee was included in that. So 7 counties, we took our average, and that's what our average came to, 42.
Okay. Well, that clarifies it. Thanks. I didn't
Yeah.
compare
So
those two numbers.
So right, yeah. Unless the legislature removes that individual or in regional cap to allow everybody to go there, but I don't know.
As I say, Paul, remember too, we can't go to the max of 42 if we want Woodbury County to, in that second year, to equal. They got to go a little bit higher. So we don't want to set it at the max if we're allowing them to go a little bit higher.
For a catch-up.
Okay, well,
No, we don't want to send it down.
okay, well, my thought was that's, okay.
I guess the one thought that I would throw out there, some of the philosophy that come out of this last negotiation / whatever out of the state of Iowa on this 2% growth was a philosophy to budget for what you need and not what you want. And I guess if you over budget on a local county level for mental health, just to build up money so you can not budget as much next year, I guess that kind of goes against that philosophy.
Isn't whatever you have in your mental health budget property of this region
Correct.
anyway?
So that's why I say it's an aggregate of
So I
the
don't see
region.
any
Right.
advantage over assessing or going above the per capita rate that this board sets.
Because you can't spend it.
And you can lose it in a sweep.
If we needed it, yeah, there is the law that allows if there's extra funds available. If you all decided to go to the cap and your local levies,
You don't own that money anymore after it gets.
the region owns it.
And that was my point. That's where we sit with our supervisor hats on. But the providers are sitting out here saying, wait a minute, you're gonna have 3, 4, 5 million sitting there. Why can't we up our rates, or why do we? But there again, we're subsidizing MCOs or whoever too on that. So we're caught in a bad place here. And I don't like being caught in bad places, which is,
There is a danger in over budgeting because we may have a change in this board, and we could have a lot of representation without financial contribution. They can tell us how to spend our money. Our current board is still going to be the majority, but it's going to be somewhat diluted
yeah.
if everything happens the plan.
I mean, yeah, we don't have a crystal ball any better than, if you can tell me what the legislature's gonna do, I'd. Okay, any more discussion before somebody wants to make a motion?
I guess, I'm just reluctant to take an $8 bump in one. I guess if we're trying to get to 42.78, or 42, whatever it is, that's basically $12 over what we have now. As much as I hate that, I guess I would maybe say, I think you advocated this earlier, half and half, maybe do 36 and then 42 the next year. It'll get us there. I guess that, I'm just looking at, I'm just looking at Crawford County, and everybody got to look at their own counties, and, and we're working on a budget right now, and I understand what our obstacles are, might not be the same obstacles in every other county, but like you said, I'm wearing my Crawford County supervisor hat right at the moment.
Can I make a comment? For our providers in the room, when we had our budget work session, I did ensure that the board was aware of all the efforts of the task forces, and that this is very difficult to look at raising taxes, but we don't have everything we need to be in compliance. And so I don't want that to go unnoticed. And we do have still within our budget some flexibility for core investments. I have about $1 million that is just earmarked for that. So if you hear that they set a per capita at 36 or 38, and you think we should be going to 42.79 to be able to do a little bit more, even though we can't do it all, they are well aware of that, and that we do have some funds available. Is it going to be able to do everything? There's no way. The legislature have dealt us an impossible task.
Our county, speaking Carroll County, is going to have an increase in taxation due to several reasons. And this coming year, and if we could have, as Cecil says, a small amount this year and make up for next year, I think it would be more palatable to me too. And I realize that you don't represent Carroll County, but I just want you to know where we're at.
Okay. Are we ready to do it, or do you? I don't know where. I'd like to have a motion.
Do we, maybe to make the procedure a little quicker and smoother, before we go into a formal motion, can we maybe do it by a show of hands first, where we're kind of leading? And then we can, well, I'm just saying, otherwise you get into the deal, a motion, and if you don't get a second, it dies, and you go through, I'm
not scared of that. I appreciate that, but I'm scared of that. I'll make a motion that we set our levy at 3868.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a
Who seconded?
Dennis.
Yeah, I said.
Brent and Dennis.
What was the motion?
3868.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to set the per capita asking at $38.68. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion at this point? If not, I'll call the vote. Do we want to do this in roll call, or do you want to just have a...
Chairman Scribble.
Okay, we'll try it. We'll just try it first. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, then we better, let's do a roll call.
Sounds close.
I know it sounded too close for me. Okay, let's start with,
If you could give me a second, I got this on my counties now.
okay. Why don't you call the counties out as you
Well,
type
why
them
don't we
in?
just go online of how you're...
Is that how you want to do it instead of alphabetical?
Okay. Carroll County,
No.
Crawford.
No.
Oops, so sorry, I hit the wrong key. Nervous.
Oops.
Calhoun.
Calhoun, oops. Yes.
BV, yes.
BVS.
I don't know.
No.
Cherokee, yes.
Ida was a no.
That was a no.
Uh-oh.
Sack, yes.
Okay, we have our first in the history of this board, a tie vote. Oh, wait, no, the motion fails, right?
Yep, no.
What was the result?
It's 4-4.
But we can use a weighted vote. when
We
the
use weighted vote on the tiebreaker, right?
How did,
But does the motion have to pass? Does the tie not even give you that?
I think when there's a weighted vote, when there's tie. You
Okay.
check your 20E.
I'm pulling it
Right.
up right now.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up right now.
So the weighted vote would
And we
be,
got 3 of the 4 that are weighted are nay.
that's right, we have Woodbury, Crawford, Carroll, and BV as your 3 weighted
And 3 of the
votes.
4 are nay.
Woodbury,
Yeah, Woodbury,
Crawford,
Crawford, Carroll, and BV are the 4
four high.
highs. And of those, we have 3 that are nays. Carroll, Crawford, and Woodbury were nay. So the motion fails. Okay. Is there another motion?
I'll move we make the levy at 36 even.
I'll second that.
Okay, just, all right, before I call the vote, just,
Can I ask a clarifying question?
sure.
Because we had discussed this during the budget session, I don't know, maybe this is a secondary issue to this, but as far as the makeup of Woodbury's shortfall, is there an offering of a friendly amendment to do that as well? I mean, that will add in 170,000 that I think is only right and fair. So I don't know if that should be addressed here.
Yeah, it almost should be addressed before you do the per capita motion.
Okay.
You want a separate vote or just add it to the motion?
You got separate because you've got a different
Yeah,
per capita for Woodbury.
Oh,
okay, so did I have a second to that motion yet or not?
or is that
She's
amendment
with-
to the motion? You can do an amendment to the motion.
which I'd be fine with.
I don't have my Roberts rules with me.
I'm not an expert on it, but you can amend any motion that's on the table, and you first you vote on the amendment, and then you vote on the motion.
Okay, thank you.
So the question was, Woodbury going 1 year at a higher rate? Okay.
We have a motion on the table for $36, which was, and I think Jeremy wants to amend the motion by saying that Woodbury County would be willing to be at a different levy rate.
What would that higher rate be? 1%, 1.5%? To make that
We'll have to do that.
What did we figure that before at 170,000? You remember?
170,395.
No,
And
that-
it's.
How much more would be the levy?
160 a year operation.
But half of the, if we were gonna jump it in half, we'd be at 36.77, but your motion was 36 even.
Yeah, it was like, it was close to about 50, that's all I remember, I don't remember it being exactly 141.
I don't have that in my notes here.
What's our new, is it
Yeah, look
102?
at your current population.
So the 100,000 at,
1.6.
So you're
1.66.
$1.66.
That's all, that makes sense.
I'm willing to accept that amendment to the motion.
Okay, so was that an amendment then, Jeremy? Jeremy?
Okay, we have an original motion, and then we have an amendment to the motion. Who made the amendment?
Jeremy.
Okay, you second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Just said yours at 37.66?
Then we vote on the amendment to the motion first.
And second by,
Preston.
And the verbiage for the amendment would be is that we're allowing Woodbury to have $1.66 per capita to whatever levy we end up establishing.
The motion was 36, so the amendment was on the original motion.
Okay, so
We can put the amendment back on if this one fails
You
to.
could put the amendment on any figure. that-
Or we can separate it out if this fails.
Amendment with Woodbury being higher.
and I would clarify in the amendment that what the purpose of that is, so that it's clear. And that is for the purpose of making up the deficit from FY20's contribution per the MOU.
yes.
Got that?
Got that.
So Jeremy, you asked for an amendment of Woodbury County set their per capita at $1.66 higher, which is 37.66, to make up for
Fiscal year 1920 shortfall of 170,394.
2019 shortfall.
That's 2020, but I'm counting it up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And then shortfall, and, for 1 year only, right? Is that, did you want that in there, but this was just a 1 year? Yeah. Or, let's see.
It's an amendment to this, to this
Shortfall.
capita
For the MOU.
for the 2021 budget.
Okay. All right, I think between Dawn and Neil and I, we can clean it up.
As long as you have to make motions.
Yeah? Okay.
So let's,
Second by Preston.
seconded by Creston, yes.
Correct.
All in favor of the amendment of adding the $1.66 from Woodbury County
To Woodbury County's levy.
to, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I misstated that. Say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries.
The amendment to the motion carries.
The amendment does, yes. Now, the motion of setting the per capita made by Creston, seconded by Neil.
No, I think I made it, and you said.
Oh, you,
No, I made the motion.
he made
you seconded.
36.
Oh, okay.
Cecil, you second.
Oh, okay.
Cecil seconded, yeah. So, yeah, if you want to get down to pennies,
A while ago.
just as a matter of discussion, if you're splitting it even, it'd be $36.77, but you made it even $36 per capita. Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on the $36 per capita?
Can I just ask one?
Sure.
Does this actually set the budget for the region? And what I mean by that is, after this vote, are we able to take up, let's say that the budget target of what Dawn has identified for needs is such, but we want to go from an ending fund balance target of 40% down to 37% or 36%?
Whatever it ends up being.
Can we address that separately? Is that,
No, we don't need to address it. It would affect it, but we don't need to address it.
okay.
At this
So we're
point.
Fall River Call.
We're all comfortable hitting 40%?
Yeah, because we could end up in the budget
We're
year.
not gonna be at 40% on 36.
No.
No, but we
With
could,
the additional requests from Queens area and additional requests yet to come, and I just factored in at a 36, taking out, that 200,000 in reserve balance, that would put us at a 29. But if we do not agree to reimburse the crisis center on different provisions, then we would probably come out at about a 30%
Okay.
ending balance.
Well, that shows
There's a
the
lot of
state
things
that we
could
are
affect
trying
the
to
ending
cut.
balance estimate.
And hopefully for the better.
but we only have to be at 40.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On the service
More or less.
level, where does that leave us with how much money would we have to develop core services? Million, just to make this done.
Okay. Any other discussion? Let's call that a vote, and we'll do it with roll call. We'll start at the other end. Zach?
No.
Okay, oh, but I'm sorry.
We're gonna-
Starting at that end this time, so staff. Is that?
Yep, Zach.
Okay, I'm ready.
Is it no? Nay?
Yes, no.
Woodbury?
No. Woodbury, yes.
Cherokee?
Nay.
Ida?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
BV's and nay. Calhoun?
Nay.
Crawford, yes.
Carol, yes.
So we're the same way. And I think we have the same super majority there too, weighted average. So
Good pass.
this motion does pass
What was the vote?
4 to 4.
But this is what I asked Don to look up. This is a weighted vote to come into play when there's a vote. I think the motion does pass.
Well, we use it on the first
Assuming.
motion, the weighted, to fail it.
Yes, so we should use on the second motion to pass it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Because I've been told both ways. I've been told that a tie vote doesn't pass a motion. You have to have,
I think.
But that might be-
there's, I think according to our 28E.
right, we put that
If there's a
provision
tie
in.
vote, then it goes to the weight.
Right, and we put that in there and it's right here, section 4.3.
Well, then it should pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I said I declared it as passed. I want to make sure.
Okay, excuse me.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Carried at 4 to 4 with weighted vote. Is that how I would word that, Neil?
Yeah, and it passed
Yeah.
because of the weighted vote.
Neil, will you stay after and help me?
I think you got it.
I don't know. We've never had anything like this before.
No, right, we've never had a tie vote. We've never
Had an
really,
eight-man board though either.
well, we had a 6-man.
Did you?
We had a 6-person when we first started, so. But no, we've been, okay. I guess when we get into that, when we get into the other requests come in, we'll have to take those as we are, but right now, we'll, so do we, I guess my question now is, do we go through each, do we approve we've already had a consensus of not changing the contract with Sioux Rivers. But the 30,000 that we know of right now, do we handle that or do we wait for an official
I
request?
think we could wait until contract myself. Kim
want to wait to see what other requests you have come in?
Yeah.
I'm probably shooting myself in the foot.
Well, yeah, because we had the Scheffler Hall at 14 is already part of this.
Right.
These numbers, but I'm assuming that's going to be the same.
Well, and
A contract, we don't have a contract.
$30,000 is probably not going to throw the fund balance overall if we decide to do it
Right.
by a huge amount. I mean,
Okay.
it might not even change the percentage.
I mean, if you want to go on it, I would love it.
Okay.
I appreciate your frankness though, and honesty.
Okay. Is there any other business to come before the board or any? Everybody's clear as a bell on this, right? Okay. So we know what to take back to our counties as far as your per capitas, which still gonna.
Gonna be the 36.
You still just got to come up with those dollars. You're still gonna have to set your levies to.
Sure. I guess
To make
one
sure
other
you
thing
cover
is
your-
that,
your
Are we
proportion.
clear on what we're gonna do to effect the amendment so we can allow Woodbury to do what we voted on? We voted to allow them to raise their levy about 66.
Right.
Are we clear on how we're gonna effect the paperwork to do that?
Don was gonna get a hold of Gary Jones and ask him about that.
I can.
Because if for some, I guess the reason I bring that up, if for some reason that $1.66 doesn't fly, then maybe this $36 might have to be looked at.
Why wouldn't it fly? I mean,
Well, I'm just saying procedurally, we're assuming that we have that authority. But someone that went to a law school might say, no, you gotta amend the 28E first.
oh, I see what you mean.
And I'm just saying, if the $1.66 doesn't work, that could put a little more pressure on that $36.
You have a motion in order to, that's passed, that would have passed us to change the 183.
So I guess we just go ahead and give approval on 28E change under the amendment.
I think so.
Okay. I'm fine with
And
that.
I agree with you that probably should be checked out, make sure it's legally kosher.
All right, Don, do you have anything else for us? Okay, then we.
The one thing I just want you guys to understand is that at this low rate, that's $1,339,701 that we're not going to get next year for workforce service development. Difference from the max to the 36. It's a lot of $1 million in costs.
But we couldn't have went to the max really anyway with that amendment.
Yeah.
We would have had to allow that 166. Our max really would have been 42 something minus the 166.
3868 would have been too much here. You had $1.66 on it,
Let's see. What did we say, 42.79 and $1.66. No, we're still 3. Still would be a 41.13. That's where we'd have been.
Oh, what I was getting at, like, 3868. $1.66. Better talk to the next one.
That's what they would have been. We would have been here. Right, we'd have been here, they'd have been. This would have been Woodbury's number.
Right.
Okay, is there a,
Well, next year we'll just have the rest of it.
okay.
Oh, we'll do it split. Take it into 2 years. That would-
The next meeting date would be, is there, yeah, we need to set a meeting date. Do we want to try for another one in January, Don, or are we, I guess, I'm not sure again on our public hearings what this new legislation does to, we have to have 2 public hearings now, and I'm assuming this is still gonna put most of us over a 2% asking, so we're gonna have to have that second public hearing. And I'm not sure, I don't know if there's anybody there.
I don't know if you guys have determined the budget target, I don't know that we would need.
I don't know if we'll be,
Okay.
I'm meeting with all the local boards yet here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, so.
Okay, so we'll go to February. Unless you have something else.
Is this board subject to the 2 hearing also? Or is that just county?
No, mental health is left out of the,
Okay, so we don't.
mental health is left out of that
Okay.
2%. So actually, you probably wouldn't have to, 2% isn't gonna matter, because your
That's what I'm at-
your
that's
general,
what I'm
our
your
general
debt
budget
service,
will be up to-
your debt service and your,
Capital improvements are excluded.
and as is mental health, is excluded from that 2%. It's February 12th, is that where we're at?
Usually, I mean, if you're,
Or we want to get back into that
yeah, I think,
third?
third?
I won't be here.
we were
No.
always doing the 4th, I thought, to accommodate Scott.
The 4th Wednesday? The 26th. Is that what we want to?
Does that put us in a little bit of jeopardy on any publication getting done in March? Because you have, is it 4 and 20?
Well, you're not going to catch your first public hearing from that. It does for us because we have one that only publishes once every. That's what always screws up BVCon. We have one official paper that publishes every 2 weeks or something, so it's, or maybe it's weekly, but it messes us up instead of a daily or.
Well, if it has to go
Bi-weekly.
in February, it's not a,
Okay.
I'm open with any date, I guess.
Well, why don't we, let's set it for the 26th, and if we need to change that, if something comes up, we may have to call a special meeting, so.
What time?
Back to 1 o'clock?
February
Can't do 1, 2?
2020,
It was going to 2:30.
Oh, 2:30 is where we are?
That's where it was the last
Way back.
couple of them, except for when we didn't take off that day.
Okay, 2:30?
That works for me.
Okay, who wants to make a motion? Thanks, Brent. We have a motion to set the next meeting on February 26th at 2:30. Thank you, Kristen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Kristen. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. We're adjourned. Thank you.